MiA. So let's go in game and introduce these guys and see how this series is gonna get started. In the upper right hand corner, our blue town player from Cascade. It's gonna be Strelok. And he's gonna be going up in a TVP here against the yellow cross player from MiA. It's CheeseKing. So, see how this goes. See what these guys are going to get up to, and see who's going to take an early lead in this series. MiA and Cascade, two teams who have been around the SC2 ITL for a very long time. Cascade, 2 times runners-up in Season 1 and Season 3. MiA, of course, who did make it to the playoffs back in Season 1, have not made it to the playoffs since then. And they've always been kind of middle of the table team. You've always been trying to push that a little bit further and make it to the playoffs once more. So we'll see how they do here today. So based on past past league performance, I guess Cascade will definitely come into this as the favourites, and they definitely have the players to take this as well. I mean, Strelok, a pretty strong starter for them, and behind this they can go into Complain, perhaps the Dominus, and Cass as their ace. So they have a lot of players they can use, and we'll see how that goes as an SCV gets caught there and goes down to the Zealot. Next is going to be coming down here quite quick from CheeseKing, same on the other side of the map out of Strelok, who is opened up just a marine, a couple of marines into a reactor, and is now going into a factory as well. So looking as though it was a 15 gas build, didn't see exactly, but I do believe 15 gas is what leads us to this sort of position here. So yeah, it's definitely a 15 gas. So 15 gas opening, and will allow him to get that 1-1-1 composition up to try and get something done here early on, as we do have a single Zealot actually continuing to move around the top side of the map, and this Marine just going to be moving away from that right now, does not really want to engage into that Zealot at all. So that will just continue moving around, not really going to be able to do too much though, as these Marines are going to sit on the front of the natural, and Zealot will probably have to go home at some point soon, unless it's going to commit suicide. Which we might be about to see as continue to chase Marine, but 5 more Marines lie in wake, and CheeseKing is going to lose the Zealot here for only a little bit of damage done to these Marines. So not great, but not the end of the world either. Back at home, got a sentry on the way from him. We've already seen him go into a forge, and a couple of extra gateways being added on here. So with the way he's playing right now, it looks as though he's probably going to want to invest in a couple of cannons in each of the mineral lines, or one cannon in each mineral line, so that he can have some defense and have some detection against drops, mostly mine drops, which is what we're most likely going to be headed into at this point in time. So keep an eye for that as the scan comes down. Of course, I don't know why I'm looking at the town space. Scan comes down into the main base of the Pros just to kind of see what's going on. He sees the forge, so nice information here from Strelok, kind of sees what sort of direction CheeseKing is going to be going in, and knows nothing overly aggressive is going to be coming out too early on. Has an engineering bay on the way up, and imagine that's mostly going to be for turrets here, because Strelok is a pretty big mech player, so I'd be very surprised if he actually ended up playing bio and using this engineering bay for upgrades, so basically anything other than just turrets. So we see a couple of tech labs on the way right now on the factory, on the starport, and we're waiting to see exactly what he wants to go into here. I imagine looking as though possibly Cloak Banshee play with a tank behind it as well on that tech lab. We'll see exactly in a few moments. He's just investing into a couple of turrets right now. Job tries to come in towards the natural, but isn't able to get anything done here, and will continue towards the main base now, but will get deflected. These sentries doing a little bit of damage to the medevac there, and whoa, huge mine hit. Mine getting dropped off, burrows right in front of the army, and kills off not just the Zealot, but all 3 sentries along with it. It was a fantastic mine hit. I mean, that's 3 sentries just gone, and it's a lot of force fields he will be lacking later in the game, as we see a Dark Shrine added on now by CheeseKing, as back at home a Siege Tank and a Raven combination coming in here for Strelok. So wow, I mean, what a mine hit again. Like, that is pretty much as good as a mine hit could have gone. Like, apart from killing like 20 probes or 10 probes or 5 probes, I guess 5, yeah, about the same. I guess it's about the same as killing like 5 or 6 probes. It was probably the best it's going to go. So I mean, you just go in to think about it. There's so much gas which CheeseKing has lost, which he would rather be investing in other tech, instead of having to remake more sentries to replace those he lost. And of course, Protoss is so gas heavy all game long, so losing 3 sentries is something you do have to replace, because you probably do, you know, you made them for a reason to begin with. So you either take a risk and don't replace them, or you don't take a risk, in which case it's going to cost you gas and it's going to delay the rest of your tech. So it's going to be 10 minutes before this robotics facility finishes building. And of course he did go for Dock Shrine before it, which did delay it a little bit further as well. And that Twilight Council, I mean, he's got charged on the way, but still, you know, any kind of Robo-Bay, Colossi tech will have been slowed down by the replacement of the sentries. Strelok taking the third base here, and as we see the extra factories start coming in, so confirming that he will indeed be playing mech, which is far from surprising, as a single drop here finds this pylon, and DTs get revealed very quickly, which is a little bit interesting, but these DTs not going to be able to do anything anyways, as the turret providing vision, and they get turned away there pretty quickly. So the next step here from CheeseKing, I imagine, would be to add on a Warp Prism and try and get in towards the main base with a few units, with a few DTs, and try and harass from there. So Banshee gets picked off over here, unable to really pick up any kills at all, and again, just not really too much else going down right now. Our third base for CheeseKing is on the way, and Strelok going for his own third base right now as well. Ghost Academy on the way up from Strelok, and again, we're just kind of sitting around waiting to see what exactly this game is going to bring us. As I mean, we're going to see Ghost added on to kind of complement the mech here and to help out against the shields, you know, get through the shields a bit faster, really weaken up the army, and especially if Immortals have been mixed in, which they are, and Archons as well. It's actually going to be a perfect addition against the composition CheeseKing is building up here. Both Immortals and Archons rely so heavily on their shields to really be, well, you know, Archons basically only are shields, and Immortals, they have that hardened shield up, which does help them out. So really, I mean, if you're able to get through the shields, this army becomes very weak and, you know, very fragile, basically. So this the EMP is going to be very, very important to land correctly if Strelok wants to find a way to take this game. We've got a medevac with 3 mines heading along the left hand side of the map. That's going to be heading southwards now as well, trying to get towards that main base and see what is going on, what is happening. And not only that, but also try and get a little bit of damage done onto the mineral line in the main base here. Some extra gateways being added as an observer starts to head out across the map. Some more zealots being warped in here. And as this medevac comes in, let's see how much damage it's going to get done as he just drops these off. And is he just going to run them straight in? Okay, now he boosts forwards and starts to drop them, and CheeseKing is not paying enough attention. These mines burrow very quickly, but he gets way less damage than I thought he would, as the medevac will not get away. I mean, he should have gotten away, but he kind of took his time about it and sat in that cannon for way too long. This phone overcharge is probably not needed to be popped there either, so a couple of questionable decisions by both players, but either way, Strelok just getting his third base up now, and he's going to be quite happily starting a mine on here, as he's got a couple of fours in his composition, getting some tanks up, ghosts being added on as well. And of course, with only 1 barracks, it's going to be so important to keep these ghosts alive, because he's not going to be able to reproduce them very quickly. So it's something he's really going to have to look to try and keep alive here, as we see a cloak starting up for the Banshees, and the first Banshee being made right now as well. Scan coming down, and just picking off an observer or so, or no, sorry, not picking off an observer, it's a Protoss player. I'm picking off just a Marine or something. I'm getting myself a little bit confused, so apologies for that. There's some more Hellbats on the way. And yeah, Banshee's been added on. Banshee's something we see in mech, which has been a strong addition to the army. Who did we see the other day who played mech against Protoss? And they should have won. I can't remember. Was it Strelok? Hold that thought. We've got some Zealots coming in towards this third base right now. Sniping off that turret means that DTs have an opportunity for a couple of moments to maybe get something done, but because it's been rebuilt immediately and this goes for EMPs and even energy for a scan, these DTs are probably not going to achieve all too much. Raven even coming into position, so this is really not going to do anything at all. As the second DT does get by, and if he can just snipe the ghosts, it would have been great. And he actually nearly got one because of the friendly fire from those siege tanks. But not quite, as back at home just starts up his 4th base, so Strelok so far deflecting pretty much anything which is thrown towards him by by CheeseKing. Man, I really wish I knew what that themselves coming. I really wish I knew what that game was the other day with the cross player who was in kind of this massive concave. And then there was just Banshees and all sorts. It was definitely an SC2ITL game. Maybe it was Lilbo. Was someone playing against Lilbo perhaps? So someone versus Baguette. Who played versus Baguette? I know Root did. I really don't know. I really can't remember right now. Either way, Army moving through the middle of the map here from Strelok and maybe looking for an engagement at some point soon. We've got another big warping coming into the top left side. As CheeseKing going to see this opportunity of his opponent move now as a chance to maybe move forwards and attack here. EMP is going to be important. The EMP is all over those Immortals to begin with, but none over the Archons. These Archons are going to last quite a lot longer than they maybe should, as the tanks were very late to siege up here as well, and that's actually going to give CheeseKing enough of an opportunity to keep moving forwards here, continue to pick off these tanks. Units coming in from behind as well, and this flank is going to be the death of this army. And just the lack of the siege there initially meant that EMPs just weren't able to quite do enough, because you know, you can EMP all you like, but if your tank's not sieged, they're not going to do the rest of the work, as some DTs trying to brute force their way through this position right now. CheeseKing going to keep trying to move forwards, and every EMP comes down and doesn't really achieve too much, as CheeseKing will now back off and just wait a little longer before attempting to do anything here. Again, Immortal's going to start working through these rocks and open up access towards this natural. There's a few more DTs and cells coming in here as well, and Strelok just doesn't really seem to have anything right now. He's got some units, he's got some Hellions out on the map, he's got some units in his main/natural, but he's going to have to give up his third base, so he's going to pull away here, and he's going to lose absolutely everything. So these depots are all going to go down, some more units being warped in, some more DTs, some more Zealots, and there's just nothing right now which Strelok can really do. He's going to sit on his natural, but I think there might be just enough units here for CheeseKing to just move straight through this. There's a lot of tanks, but they're going to get closed upon by the Zealots, and once them Zealots connect with those tanks, they don't last very long at all. And the tanks falling very swiftly here, only one tank remaining. These Banshees in the sky looking to try and do something. It looks as though they're going to be taken down here. Well, I guess there's no anti-air left anymore. Just needs to build a bunch of Stalkers, I suppose, as his best chance to try and maybe do something here. As these Banshees try and chase this away right now. And yeah, I mean, with some Stalkers warping in, a couple more Archons or so, the Banshees, which are the only real issue at this point, will be dealt with very easily. And this will be game 1 for Team MiA in Strelok. Excuse me. Strelok going to be falling here pretty quickly. And that's a pretty good start from MiA. I mean, you know, when you're going up against a team which is a favourite, it's always great to take that first map. Get yourself the advantage in terms of, you know, going to be able to get an advantage in terms of when it comes to take the lead, it's going to be your map pick and your player pick. And, yeah, it just gives you a little bit of comfort, a little bit of breathing room as well. And this is going to be game over in a moment or two here. If you can deal with these Banshees, I mean, there isn't actually a observer around, so there's no detection, but even if he turns this away, I think it is way too late. I mean, he can kill everything here, but you know, he can just warp in my Stalkers and you'd win the game straight afterwards. So these Stalkers going to come forwards and should be able to finish off these Banshees soon, perhaps, maybe sometime at some point. Some more Stalkers. Maybe I can call it correctly this time. No blink, which is actually a little bit hurtful when it comes to well, when it comes to trying to pick off these Banshees. Being able to blink on top of these would be great. Now though, there's going to be too many Stalkers, and GG is called, and that will be game number 1 to Team MiA.